Welcome to Sydney, Australia, a vibrant, eclectic, diverse and prosperous city built around a stunning bay system. It serves as Australia's international business playground, attracting people and wealth from all corners of the world. It is also home to fallen media personality and TV star Andrew O'Keefe. For over 2 decades, O'Keefe was a household name, son of Supreme Court Judge Barry O'Keefe and nephew of Australian rock and roll icon Johnny O'Keefe. Andrew had it all: the looks, charisma, passion, talent, money, the lavish lifestyle, and of course the girls. He looks like fun, doesn't he? In the end, Andrew found his true love, got married and had 3 children, yet the party boy lifestyle still called to him. Andrew's passion for alcohol was well known, and as Rick James once said, cocaine is a hell of a drug. But true hell is when you graduate from cocaine use to ice addiction, and your whole life starts to crumble around you. You're about to see O'Keefe in his male feminist guise. As you'll see, being the country's most irritating women's rights ambassador is far from his lowest point. But let's start there before looking into what can only be described as possibly the most stunning public fall from grace Australia has ever seen.
Can I ask you this? If you wanted to make a film about the issues facing the modern man, why did you have to focus on the views of these extreme misogynists of the men's right movement? People like Paul Elam. Why do you highlight men's issues by promoting men who minimise women's issues?
Well, you have to see the film to see why I interviewed Paul Elam.
This is the reason that Channel 7 spent a lot of money trying to bury all copies of this interview, because neither of the hosts had actually seen the film. You'll hear a lot of lame excuses why they haven't seen it, but of course later all of these excuses are proven to be 100% false.
It just seems to me that you don't really question their views in the film.
Did you see the film?
How can it seem to you that she didn't question their views if you haven't seen the film? You're really looking foolish at this point because you're too pig-headed to concede, and you're about to dig your grave even deeper.
Well, we saw as much as we could because your publicist wouldn't send us the full thing.
I sent you the screener link actually to the full film.
Allow me to untangle this web of shit.
Here is an email sent to the producers of Sunrise, providing them with a full copy of the film for their review on the 9th of May, a full month before Cassie's interview. Cassie's assistant then sent them the same link again on the 7th of June, and Cassie sent them the film a 3rd time prior to the interview. Fair to say they had ample opportunity to view the film.
You could also buy the film on Google Play,
No, we
Vimeo,
couldn't.
and
We
Amazon
tried to do
Prime.
that and we
Be
couldn't.
that as it may.
The co-host, Monique, who happens to be a good buddy of Andrew's, jumped straight in with, "We tried that and we couldn't." While Andrew defaults to, "Anyway, be that as it may," which is pathetically dismissive and evasive. It also suggests that the two didn't quite have their stories straight. Either way, if by some act of God they still hadn't received a copy of the film the week of the interview, would they not take the initiative to request that from Cassie?
It just seems from what I have seen of the film, there's not a lot of questioning of some of their views, that's all.
Yes, there is. Absolutely. If you've seen the film, you would see the questions that I asked and their answers. I'm not promoting any kind of view that the viewer should take away. It's simply a journey looking at what men's rights activists have to say, what the feminist rebuttal is, and the audience is able to make up their own mind.
My concern, Cassie, is just, is it that it make me happy? In setting up these guys as the spokesman for the issues that men face, we promote an opposition between men and feminism that's counterproductive to the genders working together to solve everyone's problems.
Andrew, let's come back down to earth for a moment.
I live in a cloud.
No one is promoting an opposition between men and feminism. In fact, it's feminists themselves who promote the opposition between themselves and men. Any raging male feminist is perfectly aware that the notion of feminists coming together with the men that they despise to solve everybody's problems is the biggest fantasy of all.
I think we have to have this conversation about what is going on for men.
I totally agree that they are all conversations worth having. Why not have them with regular men, not guys who are in charge of the most misogynistic, anti-woman, anti-feminist organisations in the world?
I interviewed Dr. Warren Farrell, who is very even-minded. I also Mark Angelucci, an attorney who works on behalf of men's issues. Fred Hayward, who is a father who lost his custody of his son. I interviewed plenty of very sound-minded people in the film.
Why did you decide to renounce your feminism after this and say that you're not a feminist anymore?
Well, you have to see the film to see what led me down that.
Monique, the slow host, sharply changes topic by asking a more personal question. And the short answer is, none of your fucking business, because it's not a crime to renounce your feminist ideologies. This interview is supposed to be about this film that you haven't watched, not about Cassie's personal life. So grilling her on this is both unethical and unprofessional, and it's done out of desperation because you're getting annihilated in this interview.
I think we need to look at male victims if we're talking about gender equality.
Of course.
Sure.
I mean, I think you can be feminist and still, look at men's problems. You're talking about a very, very small slice of feminism that's got blinders on.
No, Andrew, it's not a very small slice of feminism that has the blinders on. You're trying to convince your audience that feminists actually care about men's rights, which makes you look incredibly stupid because even children can see that that's a complete fantasy. There's a very small percentage of women in general that care about men's rights, and you want me to believe that feminists give a fuck?
It's like saying all feminists are like, it's like saying all women who are feminists are like the men's rights movement representing all men.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
The only way your comparison works is if you'd said, it's like saying a very small slice of the men's rights movement represents all men's rights activists. But that's not what you said, which is why Cassie looks confused. See, the MRA doesn't represent all men, just like feminism doesn't represent all women. Yet you finish with that cocky face of bewilderment as if you just landed a zinger. But again, you're comparing apples and oranges and making very little sense.
Feminism even blames men for their own issues, blaming it on patriarchy, so it's the fault of men, and it's a way to dismiss men's issues by blaming men for their own problems.
I don't think it's inherently blameful. But anyway,
all right, Cassie J.
It's an interesting discussion, a really interesting discussion, Cassie.
Apart from being extremely condescending, at least he's finally had the sense to end the interview. You could almost be forgiven for thinking that he's decided to be polite or at least be civil. Except for when him and his snippy co-host decide to stick the boot in.
Well worth viewing.
Yeah, if you can get on to see it, which we haven't been able to on several occasions.
Is several the double plural of several, meaning several more than several? It's always fun watching the media lose their grip on the English language when they're a little flustered. The real issue here, though, is that this is an absolute, straight-up, indisputable lie.
We have just lost cabin pressure.
Television presenter Andrew O'Keefe will spend tonight in a police cell accused of a shocking attack on a woman at an apartment in the city.
The once domestic violence campaigner is now charged with choking, punching and kicking his victim and is set to face court tomorrow.
A fallen TV star. Arrested once again.
Former television presenter Andrew O'Keefe has spent the night in a police cell accused of a shocking attack on a woman at a Sydney apartment.
O'Keefe is also accused of resisting arrest. He plans to defend the charges, but he says regardless of his innocence or guilt, his life is ruined.
Police have charged the former Seven host with 2 counts of intentionally choking without consent, 3 counts of common assault and 1 count of assault occasioning actual bodily harm. O'Keefe was hit with a further charge for possessing prohibited drugs after police found him with 1.5 grams of cannabis.
He was also found guilty of being in possession of 1.6 grams of the illegal drug methadone.
Today, the 52-year-old, who was once a lawyer, was found guilty over a domestic violence assault in September 2021, when he kicked, pushed and spat on a woman inside a Sydney apartment. The once white ribbon ambassador pleaded guilty to breaching an AVO at the time.
When we see or suspect that violence is happening around us, we have to be brave enough to intervene.
Are you an angry man?
No.
He was already on bail for an alleged violent assault, but today freedom was refused. O'Keefe calls the decision an injustice as the court heard graphic new evidence of what his alleged victim had to do to escape him.
The police prosecutor said there are photos of the alleged victim's injuries, including significant marks to her face and legs, and that she had to bite O'Keefe to break free.
Tonight, the 51-year-old's in segregation at Silverwater Jail. It's been a spectacular fall from the dizzying heights of celebrity
coming down the home stretch
to calamity.
Andrew O'Keefe has been picked up from Silverwater Jail this evening by his brother and driven north, where he has been met by the staff of a drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre near Newcastle, seemingly in good spirits after being released on bail. Andrew O'Keefe has been ordered to spend 6 months there as a permanent resident. As part of his bail conditions, the 50-year-old must meet with a psychologist and psychiatrist weekly and take prescribed medication, also be of good behaviour.
Andrew O'Keefe is in trouble again, accused of taking drugs while on bail.
The Supreme Court granted him bail earlier this year, and as part of those conditions, he had to stay away from drugs and check into a rehabilitation centre. O'Keefe was released a few weeks ago and this morning was arrested at a home at Vaucluse, with the police prosecutor telling his bail hearing he had the drugs ice and cocaine in his system.
Did you take ice or cocaine?
You don't get to hear the story here.
Did you take ice or cocaine?
No.
Former TV host Andrew O'Keefe walks from the Sydney police cells.
I spent a night in hospital, and then spent a night in jail.
He'd assaulted a woman on Wednesday night in front of her children.
You want to tell us about what's happened here?
Not really, because there is a dispute about facts. A significant dispute about facts.
It's the second time this year the TV star has found himself facing serious charges of violence against women.
Are you on top of your drug and mental health issues?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally on top of that.
Are you sober now?
No,
Embattled former TV host Andrew O'Keefe has pleaded guilty to driving with meth in his system. O'Keefe's lawyer argued the 52-year-old has kept up with his treatment. He returned a positive result in January after being pulled over in Point Piper. No conviction was recorded.
January last year, O'Keefe was arrested and charged with assaulting a woman. The charges were dismissed 6 months later when a magistrate determined O'Keefe was bipolar. He was ordered to undergo mental health treatment. 2 months later, he was arrested again on assault charges and contravening an AVO. In January, he was again locked up, accused of grabbing a 38-year-old woman by the throat, pushing her to the ground and punching and kicking her at his Sydney CBD apartment. O'Keefe suffers drug dependency issues. It seems cocaine and methamphetamine, or ice, is at the heart of O'Keefe's downfall.
The former Deal or No Deal host spent 5 months in jail last year but was granted bail in May to attend rehab for ice, cannabis and cocaine abuse.
Walking into court, Andrew O'Keefe faced the possibility of 5 years jail for assaulting Dr. Orly Larvey at her Randwick home in January.
Every word that we utter, every action that we take.
The former white ribbon chairman admitted to slapping, kicking, pushing and spitting on his girlfriend after she accused him of bringing an ice pipe to a party. Dr. Larvey was left with injuries to her lip and back. O'Keefe asked for the charges to be dismissed, revealing he suffers from bipolar and was hypermanic at the time.
There are Christian mobs of men up at King's Cross every Friday night harassing women.
Violence against women is the most widespread abuse of human rights in the world and in Australia. Standing up and saying, right, I'm the guy who is going to start the change here. The bruises, the broken bones, while those things are really serious, they can usually be patched up.
Mate, let's talk about your wonderful organisation, White Ribbon. You started it 13 years ago with 10 other men and women.
Yep.
Why is it such an important cause for you?
Oh, look, initially it was just seemed to me to be a question of pure fairness, pure justice. I've got 2 little boys and a little girl, and my wife Eleanor and I know that, if we raise those boys the right way, they'll grow up to be great young men who are judged by the world on, the quality of their characters and the merits of their deeds. Yeah?
Yes.
And we hope our little girl will be judged the same way. But we also know that in the kind of world we currently live in, she'll be judged not just on those things, she'll also be judged on what she looks like in a pair of hot pants when she's 15, or what she's prepared to do for her boyfriend in the bedroom, or whether she's prepared to grow a pair of balls in the boardroom, or whether she's prepared to take orders from her husband on the big decisions in the family. These are the ways that women are judged far too often in our society, and that seems to me to be really unfair. My boys are judged one way, she's judged on a much harsher standard. I know that they will always feel safe, those boys, walking home from the train station at night. I know that a lot of the times she won't feel safe. They will always feel safe being at home. Maybe she won't feel safe. That's an injustice. Yeah. It's all about fairness for me.
And we've got to change.
So glad you're doing something, Andrew. Thank you.
Pleasure, Sal. Thanks, Zoe.
That's an injustice.